Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I am honored to declare open and invite you to find your seats as we declare open the 18th session of the Conference of State Parties to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and call to order its first meeting. Thank you. I would now like to invite the conference to consider Agenda Item 2, election of the President and other officers of the conference. Now, after consultations among all regional groups, the states parties appointed the Bureau-elect of the Conference of States Parties to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities for the 18th and the 19th sessions. The Bureau-elect consists of Sri Lanka as President-elect and Canada, Peru, Poland, and Tanzania as Vice Presidents-elect. May I then take it that the conference wishes to elect Sri Lanka as the President of the conference by acclamation? I hear no objection, and it is so decided. Distinguished delegates, may I also take it that the conference wishes to elect as Vice Presidents Peru, Poland, Canada, and Tanzania by acclamation? I hear no objection, and it is so decided. Congratulations to the members of the new Bureau of the Conference. And with that, distinguished delegates, it is my great honor to invite His Excellency Ambassador Jayantha Jayasuriya, Ambassador of Sri Lanka, to kindly proceed to the podium and assume the presidency of the conference. Okay, the ambassador? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, see you later. Welcome.
Distinguished delegates, representatives from the UN system, civil society, national human rights institutions. A very good morning and welcome to all of you present in this 18th session of the Conference of State Parties. It is indeed a great honor for Sri Lanka to be the president of the Conference of States Parties. And on behalf of my fellow Bureau members, Vice Presidents from Canada, Peru, Poland, and Tanzania, I wish to express our profound appreciation for your trust and confidence in us to take up these important positions. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to Article 34, Paragraph 5 of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the Rule 12 of the Rules of Procedure of the Conference of State Parties to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD/CSP/2008/3, the necessary quorum for the meeting is 2/3 of the states parties. As there are 192 states parties to the convention, the quorum is 128 states parties. I was informed by the Secretariat that the required quorum for the conference is obtained. With this, may I now proceed to item 3 of the provisional agenda, which is the adoption of the agenda. May I take it that the conference wishes to adopt the provisional agenda as contained in document CRPD/CSP/2025/1. I see no objection. It is so decided. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities was adopted in 2006 and came into force in May 2008. We are happy to see the stable trend towards universal ratification of the CRPD. To date, we have already 192 states parties demonstrating our strong and unwavering commitment to the rights and advancement of persons with disabilities. Taking this occasion, I would like to extend our warm congratulations and special welcome to Eritrea, who recently ratified and joined us in this family as a state party to the convention after the last session of the conference. Colleagues, the international commitments to equality and empowerment of persons with disabilities has been strengthened in the past decades since the adoption of the convention. State parties and the international community have been taking steps to implement the convention. Notable progress had been gaining in many of our countries and by the United Nations. Sri Lanka has taken continuous steps to align national laws and policies with its principles. We are strengthening institutional mechanisms, raising public awareness, and encouraging meaningful participation of persons with disabilities in all aspects of society. As we strengthen our national policies and frameworks, we believe that a truly inclusive society can only be built through sustained collaboration, mutual respect, and the active participation of all stakeholders, including persons with disabilities themselves. Yet, challenges and gaps remain. According to the latest 2024 UN flagship report on disability and development, persons with disabilities are left significantly behind in many goals and targets in sustainable development, while facing discrimination and exclusion in a variety of forms. Indeed, much still needs to be done to make a difference in the lives of over 1.3 billion persons with disabilities worldwide. Over the years, our annual Conference of States Parties has become one of the most important global forums on disability. Our 18th session of the conference is taking place at a critical moment. 2025 marks the 80th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. Member states and the international community are currently taking actions to address a myriad of multifaceted and interconnected crises, old and new, that are affecting all our countries and people on the planet, including billions of persons with disabilities. Meanwhile, the Second World Summit for Social Development is scheduled to take place in the coming November. Member states, through reflecting the experience and lessons learned in implementing the Copenhagen Declaration and Program of Actions, are negotiating a declaration as a key outcome of the summit that is to chart a path forward in social development. Member states are also accelerating efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals while starting the consideration of strategies to move beyond the 2030 timeline. Our conference could offer a prime opportunity for states and stakeholder partners to reflect together on the experiences and lessons learned, identify and address the gaps, strengthen policies while improving practices on the ground. In the coming few days, under the overarching theme, enhancing public awareness of the rights and contributions of persons with disabilities for social development, leading up to the Second World Summit for Social Development, we will be able to focus our deliberations on some pertinent issues, including empowering persons with disabilities and enhancing social development policies through innovative financing, leaving no one behind, using AI as a tool for supporting inclusivity to strengthen the participation of persons with disabilities, and for the very first time in the history of the conference, we will also focus on recognizing and addressing the rights of Indigenous persons with disabilities and their role in advancing disability inclusion. I kindly invite all delegations, UN entities, and civil society friends actively participate in and contribute to all these discussions at official as well as sideline events over these days. Let's also grasp this opportunity, explore ways for further strengthening international cooperation and partnership among state parties, United Nations, international development institutions, and civil society, especially organizations of persons with disabilities. Together, we can do better in our shared vision and endeavor. Full realization of the rights and inclusive development for persons with disabilities, everyone and everywhere, all over the world. Thank you. Distinguished delegates, now it is my great honor to invite Her Excellency Ms. Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General, to deliver a statement on behalf of the Secretary General of the United Nations. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Mr. Jayantha Jayasuriya, the Permanent Representative of Sri Lanka and President of the Conference, Excellencies, dear friends, welcome to the 18th session of the Conference of State Parties to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And just looking around this hall today, I'd like to say let's have a round of applause for the amazing gathering of really special people. That represent over 1.3 billion members of the UN family. On behalf of the Secretary General, I'd also like to extend my deepest gratitude to all of you who do advance the rights of persons with disabilities around the world every day. A special welcome to civil society and in particular the organizations that are led by persons with disabilities. But I'd also like to give a shout out to my team that is led by Mina, without whom I would not be able to know and amplify your issues. Your presence fills this hall with purpose. Excellencies, advancing equality and expanding opportunities for people with disabilities is not only close to my heart, it is a central vision of the Secretary General and the UN Disability Inclusion Strategy. It is a test of our common values. Inclusion of persons with disabilities is also a testament to common sense. When persons with disabilities can fully participate in society, our communities and economies are so much stronger. We know this, and so do all those who realize the Convention. In an often divided world, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities stands as a powerful declaration. Disability inclusion is fundamental to human rights and essential to achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Yet today we face a sobering truth. Progress is not just slow, in some cases it is reversing. The UN Disability and Development Report found that nearly all the SDG indicators for persons with disabilities are off track. The message is stark. Persons with disabilities face higher poverty, greater unemployment, deeper food and health insecurity, and more limited access to education, jobs, and digital technologies. As this session reminds us, Indigenous persons with disabilities face even greater exclusion. And this must change. The Pact for the Future adopted last year reinforces a call for a more peaceful, inclusive, accessible, and equitable world, one in which persons with disabilities play a full and equal role in advancing sustainable development, climate action, and digital transformation. We meet today on the threshold of two vital gatherings, the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development and the 2nd World Summit for Social Development. Your deliberations will help to shape those events. This session focuses on 3 critical themes: how we finance change, how we harness technology, and how we honor those most often left behind, Indigenous persons with disabilities. Let me offer a few reflections. First, on funding change. Progress requires investment, yet today global support for disability inclusion has been cut in half, falling to from 500 million to around 250 million in just 2 years. Behind these figures, let us remind ourselves, are real lives. Children with disabilities shut out of classrooms. Adults with disabilities who cannot get to work, if they have work at all. Families of persons with disabilities denied essential services. Women and girls with disabilities are denied sexual and reproductive health and rights. We need targeted investments and tailored solutions, such as microfinance, social impact bonds, and public-private alliances that address gaps in realizing the rights of persons with disabilities. And we must unlock the capital to fund inclusion today and to build sustainable, inclusive systems for tomorrow. This requires advancing the Pact for the Future's cause to recapitalize multilateral development banks, provide debt relief, and reform the international financial architecture, so that developing countries can invest in systems that are inclusive and accessible to persons with disabilities. Second, we must continue to harness the transformative power of technologies. Artificial intelligence is the latest frontier, and it holds immense potential to advance inclusion. AI can be the difference between isolation and full participation, and help individuals navigate the world through tools such as speech recognition, sign language interpretation, real-time captioning, screen readers, accessible navigation assistance, and personalized support for daily tasks. But this promise comes with a warning. Biases are being hardwired into algorithms, and regulations on accessibility of emerging technologies are sorely lacking. Developed countries in particular have a responsibility to step up support. Today, about 70% of AI-powered assistive technologies are concentrated in developed countries. Without global cooperation and fair technology transfer agreements, people in the poorest countries risk being excluded yet again. We must ensure that AI becomes a tool for humanity, not a mirror of entrenched inequalities. Through the Global Digital Compact, countries have made their expectations very clear. AI technologies must empower all people, including persons with disabilities, and ensure that no one is left behind in the digital age. Third, we must do more to uphold the rights of Indigenous persons with disabilities. Persistent barriers and intersecting forms of discrimination are limiting their rights, and the disparities are stark. In Latin America, for example, Indigenous persons with disabilities attend fewer years of school, earn half as much income, and hold fewer leadership roles. Indigenous women and children, girls with disabilities, face greater rates of violence, isolation, and a lack of support and services. Legal services are not accessible or are not culturally adequate for equal access to justice. This is not just neglect, it is erasure. Realizing the rights of Indigenous persons with disabilities requires culturally appropriate approaches and meaningful inclusion in decision-making. The rallying cry has never been more fitting: nothing about us without us. Dear friends, we've come a long way in 19 years. Laws have changed, attitudes have shifted, and political realities have shifted too. Armed conflict in Gaza, Ukraine, Sudan, and elsewhere is leaving countries with countless civilians with sustained permanent injuries and deep psychological trauma. Children with disabilities are especially vulnerable. Gaza alone has the highest number of child amputees in modern history. Families are bearing the brunt of conflicts, and communities will require inclusive and accessible rebuilding. Wars are draining budgets, and the foundations of multilateralism are being chiseled away by division and mistrust, undermining the very values that we stand for. Yet this session is proof that the world can still come together with purpose and with resolve. It is a reminder that we must make sure that promises that we have made are promises that we keep. Let us make the most of this conference and the historic opportunities ahead to drive action for persons with disabilities. Let us build a world that is inclusive, accessible, and sustainable. And to say in one voice, rights are not optional. They are universal. They are not negotiable, and they belong to everyone. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General, for a statement on behalf of the Secretary General of the United Nations. Now it's my great honor to present a video from His Excellency Mr. Philomen Yang, the President of the General Assembly. I kindly ask Secretariat to screen the video.
Your Excellencies, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is a milestone in our efforts to build a more just and inclusive future for all. By requiring a rights-based approach to disability, it broke new ground, clarifying the rights of persons with disabilities, setting out responsibilities to protect those rights, and promoting inclusive, accessible development. The Convention's near universal ratification is a testament to the strong support for these legally binding provisions that respect human dignity and autonomy for everyone everywhere. Yet, persons with disabilities still face systemic barriers to their full participation in society. These offer higher rates of poverty and exclusion. They are among the most vulnerable to conflict, economic instability, and climate change. They remain locked out of equal opportunities for education, employment, healthcare, and other essential services due to stigma and discrimination. And they continue to be left behind in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. For women and girls with disabilities, gender inequality fuels the worst kind of exploitation and abuse. This must change. The Pact for the Future calls for ambitious action to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and to foster inclusion and integration. We must waste no time in implementing our commitments, standing against stigma and discrimination, promoting the full and equal participation of persons with disabilities within our societies, and supporting the agency of all persons with disabilities, including women and girls, to make decisions about their own lives. In all our efforts, we must raise awareness about the challenges facing persons with disabilities and the measures needed to address them at their core. Throughout, we must allocate sufficient resources of global, regional, and national levels to foster inclusion. This is essential to ensuring the rights of all persons with disabilities are promoted and protected in principle and practice. Looking ahead, the Second World Summit for Social Development in November offers a critical opportunity to strengthen cooperation in this area. It offers also an opportunity to enhance the implementation of sustainable development frameworks in ways that fully include persons with disabilities. Human dignity for everyone everywhere is a cornerstone of my presidency of the General Assembly. I am committed to engaging with member states and stakeholders alike to raise our standards on disability inclusion across our work and to raise awareness among global audiences. I thank Sri Lanka as President of the Conference of States Parties to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities for this opportunity to address the 18th session. I wish you productive deliberations. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency Philemon Yang, the President of the General Assembly, for addressing to our conference. We feel grateful for his long-term commitment, leadership, and support to the conference. Distinguished delegates, I now kindly invite Ms. Myeon Kim, Chairperson of the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, to proceed to the rostrum to make a statement.
Your Excellencies, representative of the State Party, and friends of the representative of persons with disabilities, distinguished guests. Good morning. My name is Myeon Kim from the Republic of Korea, as the first Asian woman with disability elected to serve as the chair of the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. It is a profound honor to stand before you today. Next year marks 20 years since the adoption of our convention. The CRPD is the most progressive human rights treaty of the 21st century. Today, with 193 state parties, the CRPD stands as the most universally ratified human rights treaty in the United Nations systems, a testament to our shared commitment to equality, dignity, and justice for all. It builds on the core principle of previous treaties while establishing the specific rights of persons with disabilities. It marks a decisive shift from medical and charity model to right-based approaches, and affirm the duty to dismantle structural and gender-based discrimination. Uniquely, it was shaped by persons with disabilities themselves, those historically excluded. It recognized the right to be born, to live independently, and to be fully included in society. Yet nearly 20 years later, full realization remains out of reach. Armed conflict, climate crisis, economic instability, and mass displacement are all on the rise. And amidst these intersection challenges, the rise of the 1.3 billion persons with disabilities are increasingly sidelined, deprioritized, or delayed. At precisely this moment, the CRPD committee faces serious constraints due to the UN's ongoing liquidity crisis. Also, the 193 states has ratified the CRPD. Our committee is limited to only 2 sessions a year. Over 36 countries still wait until their initial review. And even these limited sessions are now under threat. We are the only treaty body with a deaf member, yet can no longer guarantee national sign language interpretations. This violates both the CRPD and UN Disability Inclusion Strategy. Human dignity cannot be dependent on budget surpluses. Delayed reporting is not always about political unwillingness. We recognize the many delays stem from systemic barriers, insufficient resources, lack of the trained personnel, and weak data systems. The committee remains committed to constructive engagement and support. Despite all these setbacks, there is a growing global momentum. Last year in Assisa, Italy, the Solpagnano Charter reaffirmed G7 support for CRPD-based policies. This April, the Amman Berlin Declaration, endorsed by 98 governments and organizations, has reinforced international cooperation and disability inclusive development. This May, as a part of the APEC Second Senior Officials Meeting, the 2025 International Forum on Disability Employment in Jeju, Republic of Korea, showcases groundbreaking approach integrating ESG principle. Emerging technologies include AI and inclusive policy framework. Nearly 30 years have passed since 1995 Beijing Declaration. Since then, states have expanded their effort for women and girls with disabilities, strengthening through CRPD Article 6. There are signs of progress in uncertain times. They also reflect a broader shift. Disability inclusion is becoming central to international development and governance, including the upcoming the Second World Summit for Social Development in Qatar. The roundtable themes of this convention: disability inclusion is not optional. It must be a foundational. First, we must reform global financing for inclusion. Also, persons with disability make up over 15% of the world population. Disability-focused ODA dropped from 4% in 2020 to just 1% in 2023. This is political failure. We must align public financing with CRPD obligations and stop funding systems that perpetuate segregation and institutionalization. Second, digital transformation must be rooted in accessibility and equality. AI can empower or exclude. It can grant access to persons with disability or deny jobs through biased algorithms and data. Persons with disability must be co-creators and leaders in shaping digital future. Legally binding accessibility standards are essential. Third, the rights of indigenous persons with disabilities must be prioritized. They live at the intersection of colonialism, racism, poverty, and ableism. Where data is missing, we must build a system to count them. Where services are accessible, solutions must be co-designed. Where language and culture are erased, inclusion must honor identity and self-determination. Distinguished delegates, this is not the time to look backward. The CRPD is not a promise to the committee. It is a promise to the 1.3 billion persons with disabilities around the world. In this moment of global uncertainty, will we create a world that turns away from misfortune? Ask like Kevin, am I my brother's seeker? Rather than answering the call to justice and compassion? The question, where is your brother and sisters, remains unanswered for too many. Let COSP18 be a turning point where inclusion is no longer postponed, equality is no longer conditional, and dignity is never negotiable. Thank you so much for your attention.
I thank Ms. Myeon Kim, Chairperson of the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, for her statement. Now I kindly invite Ms. Heba Hagras, Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, to approach the podium and deliver her statement.
Mr. President, Excellencies, dear participants, I am honored to address you as the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Over the past year, the world has become more uncertain and divided. Multilateralism is under pressure, and financial for human development, including for the rights of persons with disabilities, is shrinking. But even in this challenging context, we do have strong tools to ensure that disabilities are no longer left behind. Next year marks 20 years of the Convention, now the second most ratified UN Human Rights Treaty with 192 state parties. In April, 74 governments endorsed the Amman-Berlin Declaration at the third Global Disability Summit and committed to disability-inclusive development cooperation. I am hopeful that there is significant commitment to disability rights growing, although with growing pushbacks against human rights. Human diversity needs to be celebrated and included. Let me now reflect on what persons with disabilities shared with me over the past year. They are deeply concerned about insufficient support and assistance, cut to special services, and regressive reforms. They are worried about continued investment in institutionalization instead of community-based services and independent living. As part of my ongoing thematic work on families and children with disabilities, I have received extensive inputs and testimonies about families filling the gaps of insufficient and inaccessible care and support services. The cost is steep. Poverty, isolation, negative impact on physical and mental health, and too often violence, abuse, and neglect. Children with disabilities and their primary caregivers, most often women, carry the burden. I highlighted this issue in my recent thematic report on 30 years of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. I must also speak about the dire reality for persons with disabilities in situations of armed conflict. For example, in Ukraine, Sudan, and Myanmar. Just 2 weeks ago, I spoke with Palestinians with disabilities, including from Gaza. They feel utterly abandoned, cut off from the most basic necessities like crutches and hygiene items. They said there is no dignity left, only death. Excellencies, we can and must act. I urge you to seize two key opportunities. First, the upcoming second summit, World Social Summit for Development, which will focus on poverty eradication, employment and decent work, and social integration. all key issues for persons with disabilities. The summit's outcome document must reflect this commitment to inclusive and comprehensive social protection systems that address disability-related extra costs, decent work opportunities for persons with disabilities, and investment in inclusive care and support systems to foster social inclusion and dismantle inequalities. Second, after 5 years of the United Nations Disability Inclusion Strategy, it is time to institutionalize this initiative and ensure that the United Nations has the resources to support CRPD implementation and inclusion at all levels, especially in human response. In particular, resources are needed to operationalize Security Council Resolution 2475 on the protection of persons with disabilities in armed conflict. This was my main recommendation during an area formula meeting of the UN Security Council on this topic in December 2024. Thank you for your attention and look forward to our deliberation and engagement.
I thank Ms. Weber-Hagras for her statement. And now I invite Dr. Joseph Murray, civil society representative from the World Federation of the Deaf, to deliver his statement.
Distinguished delegates, colleagues, and friends, I present today on behalf of civil society, and in particular as a representative of the global movement of persons with disabilities. I must begin with a simple truth. We are running out of time. Around the world, we're witnessing a resurgence of fear-driven politics, of budgets that claim to protect security but exclude and silence those who have been left at the margins. Military spending climbs, while support for disability rights, inclusive education, economic empowerment, accessible health care, and social protections are declining. Too often, persons with disabilities are viewed as burdens. Our lives are reduced to mere service costs. Our contributions go unrecognized. But we are not passive recipients of development. We are builders of society, holders of rights, gatherers of data, experts in context-appropriate solutions, and leaders of change. This year's theme asks how to enhance public awareness of the rights and contributions of persons with disabilities in advancing social development. Our answer is clear. By dismantling the systems that discriminate, segregate, and silence us. By ensuring that the upcoming Second World Summit on Social Development does not repeat the failures of the past, but chooses a new path. One that is inclusive, rights-based, sustainable, and rooted in our lived expertise of our communities. Yesterday, at the Civil Society Forum, representatives from diverse sectors convened to discuss challenges and opportunities. Even after 20 years since the CRPD's adoption, we are still waiting for a paradigm shift of how disability is understood to impact the lives of persons with disabilities globally. This means not delaying deinstitutionalization another decade, but treating this with urgency. It's a moral imperative and a human rights obligation under Article 19 of CRPD. We have to finally eliminate segregated services and instead invest in robust, inclusive, rights-based care and support systems that allow all people, with or without disabilities, to live in their communities with dignity and choice. This means that the value of our labor is recognized in the private and public sector, in entrepreneurship, in scientific research, in technology, and innovation. A paradigm where inclusive digital transformation accelerates instead of slows down. We must bridge the digital divides, disability, gender, geography, so that technology and AI advance human rights, not entrench exclusion. And most importantly, we must shift the narrative. Charity campaigns and awareness-raising days are not enough to increase public awareness. Awareness is built when persons with disabilities are recognized and represented in mainstream communities, public office, at negotiation tables, in media, in parliaments, and in peacekeeping processes. When OPDs, our organizations, are adequately resourced, trusted, and meaningfully included, when we are given a seat at the table, just as we are at COSP today. We therefore urge member states and UN agencies to take seriously the important role that organizations of persons with disabilities have contributed to the implementation of the CRPD. From decent work, to psychosocial health, to strengthening data processes, and social protection. We have provided concrete and achievable language to align the outcome with the Convention to the 2030 Agenda. But this is not just documents. This is about people. We also call for an intentional, intersectional approach to be embedded across all implementation and accountability efforts. The lived experiences of persons with disabilities are shaped by multiple intersecting forms of discrimination, whether based on gender, age, indigeneity, ethnicity, race, sexuality, or socioeconomic status. Their leadership, perspectives, and priorities must be central to every stage of policy development, data collection, service provision, and global dialogue. Diversity and inclusion are central to our movement towards equity for all. This story is about a young woman with a disability denied an education because her school remains inaccessible. It is also about a man with psychosocial disabilities institutionalized against his will and denied liberty for years. It's about a deaf CRPD committee member who was told there's not enough UN budget for sign language interpretation to allow him to perform his role. This is about millions of deaf people all around the world who have their linguistic human rights denied. There is so much to do, but there's also immense hope and opportunity. That's why COSP matters. It is a space that belongs to us all, a space where civil society, and especially organizations of persons with disabilities, can speak with clarity, urgency, and vision. It's one of the few global platforms where we are not just observers, but instead active participants in shaping the decisions that affect our lives. Here we bring not only our concerns, but our solutions, grounded in rights, lived experience, and determination to build a more just and inclusive world. In times of challenge and constraint, the conference reminds us that the global solidarity is still possible and that progress is achievable. Let us carry that optimism forward. We, the disability movement, recognize that we must continue to defend and implement the UN CRPD against the damaging ideology attacking diversity, inclusion, and access. We are here because we believe in the transformation that CRPD promises us, and we look forward to the Second World Summit for Social Development, which will reflect the highest level of inclusion for persons with disabilities. Thank you.
I thank Dr. Mare for his statement. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I thank Her Excellency Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, and all distinguished speakers for their statements. I kindly request all delegates to please stay in your seats as we take a moment to excuse Deputy Secretary General's departure. Thank you for your attention and cooperation. Colleagues, the next matter on my list concerns the applications for NGO accreditation. In accordance with Rule 25, Paragraph 3C of the Rules of Procedure of the Conference, CRPD/CSP/2008/3, a list of 10 non-governmental organizations requesting accreditation was circulated on 17th April 2025 to all state parties for approval by consensus, and a stipulated deadline of 30th May 2025 for comments was also communicated to state parties of all 5 regional groups through 5 members of the Bureau of the Conference. Rule 25 states that, I quote, representatives of accredited non-governmental organizations may participate as observers in the conference, and accreditation shall be granted to 1. Non-governmental organizations in consultative status with the Economic and Social Council. 2. Non-governmental organizations previously accredited to the Ad hoc Committee on the Convention. And 3. Other non-governmental organizations subject to approval of the conference by consensus. No objections were received with respect to any of these 10 applications for accreditation contained in document DISD/25/066. May I take it that the Conference of States Parties wishes to grant accreditation to the 10 NGOs in order for them to participate as observers in this and future sessions of the conferences of states parties. I hear no objection. It is so decided. I welcome all newly accredited organizations and look forward to their contributions. Colleagues, in keeping with past practice, the conference also welcomes participation by national human rights institutions, NHRIs, and the Global Alliance for National Human Rights Institutions, GANHR, as observers in this session of the conferences of the state parties. I now kindly invite the Secretary to make an announcement concerning documents, accessibility arrangements, and other practical information about the conference.
Thank you, Excellency. Distinct delegates, the conference have issued the following 4 official documents with the code CRPD/CSP/2025/1234. These documents, including 3 background notes for the roundtables and provisional agenda. All these documents issued in 6 official United Nations languages and all also available now in ODS and conference website. Furthermore, Secretariat at UNDESA continue its practice, hiring external service, producing a easy-to-read format in English. The program is available now in the website. In terms of accessibility, United Nations is making efforts to continue promoting accessibility in its headquarters and beyond. As you might have noticed, based on the information notified to the Secretariat, some arrangement or adjustment have been made already for this meeting, such as making our seats accessible, using adjustable elevators, producing certain amount of a document in large prints and brailles in different languages upon requested, and providing healing loops at the meeting venue in this room and also conference room 4. Reasonable accommodation is also made available accordingly, provided such specific requirements have been notified to the Secretariat before the opening of this session. Furthermore, the United Nations Accessibility Center, which is managed by our colleagues in DGACM, is located in the basement level near conference room 4. The Accessibility Center offers a walk-in service whereby delegation may have a request and submitted to them by presenting their passport or national recognized or identification in order to buy some devices and subject to availability anytime during the session if you have not yet submitted this information to us beforehand. Lastly, I want to share with you this year we have about 70 side events being organized by states and their partners in civil society, United Nations entity, national human rights institution, development institutions. They are discussing very important issues around the theme of this session. We invite everybody to have a look. The website published, there is a full list. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, sir.